Today, we're going to get into something pretty wild, the neurological impact of short-form video. We're going to break down exactly what is happening inside your brain when you scroll, and how the whole structure of these apps can actually change how you see time, how you focus, and believe it or not, how you see yourself. All right, let's just dive right in.
You know the feeling, right? You pull out your phone to watch just one or two videos, and the next thing you know, an entire hour is just gone. Well, it turns out that's not really a lack of willpower, it's actually by design. A design that taps directly into how your brain is wired. So how on earth does it manage to bend time like that?
Well, the secret starts right here. Your brain doesn't just have one single clock telling time. Nope. Different parts of your brain process the world at totally different speeds, and short-form video has become an absolute master at playing them against each other.
Okay, so the scientific term for these internal clocks is temporal receptive windows. You can just think of them as different shutter speeds for your mind. Some parts of your brain are built for these incredibly high-speed snapshots, capturing things in milliseconds. But other parts, they need a really long exposure to see the whole picture.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Your sensory brain, which is back here in your head, it loves the constant rapid-fire changes you get in a video feed. It thrives on it. But your narrative brain, the part that builds stories and makes sense of the world, it needs time, it needs coherence. Short-form video is basically force-feeding the fast parts of your brain while completely starving the slow ones.
So what's the first major consequence of throwing your brain's clocks out of balance like this? Well, it's a systematic fracturing of your attention.
And here's the crucial part, the endless novelty of the feed. A new video, a new sound, a new idea every few seconds, it never lets your brain settle down into a state of deep focus. Instead, your brain is constantly being surprised, which forces it to reorient itself over and over and over again.
See, your brain has these two key attention systems that are kind of competing. The dorsal system is what you use to really focus on something, like reading a book or getting work done. But the ventral system, that's your surprise detector. And every single swipe, every new video, every jarring sound triggers that surprise detector, pulling your brain's resources away from any kind of sustained focus.
This is just a brilliant way to put it. For that slower, story-building part of your brain, it's like trying to build a sandcastle while the tide is rushing in. Just as it starts to piece together, okay, what is going on here? A new wave hits, and it has to start from scratch.
But it's not just about attention. There's this incredibly powerful psychological hook at play that makes the feed so hard to put down, and it is all about reward.
You know, behavioral psychologists figured this out decades ago. It's called a variable ratio schedule. When a reward is unpredictable, just like a slot machine, the behavior to get that reward becomes incredibly persistent. You just keep pulling the lever or swiping the screen because you never ever know if the next one is going to be the jackpot. And this process creates this powerful compulsion loop. The swipe is the action. The uncertainty is the key. Is the next video going to be amazing or just meh? When you finally land on a great one, that surprise makes the dopamine hit even stronger. And pretty soon, even just seeing the app icon on your phone is enough to trigger a little bit of that dopamine, creating the craving for, you guessed it, just one more.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit, because the platform structure doesn't just reshape our sense of time and attention, it does something else, something that might be even more profound. It fundamentally alters our relationship with our own image, with our sense of self.
So in psychology, there's this classic idea called the mirror stage. It's that moment when a toddler sees themselves in a mirror and for the very first time thinks, hey, that's me. They see a whole unified person. And that's sort of the baseline for how we form a stable self-image.
But here's the thing. Your phone's front-facing camera is not a passive analog mirror. It is a digital mirror, and it's designed for performance. It doesn't just reflect what is, it shows you what could be. It's a tool for constant editing, for modification, promoting this idea of a perfectible self that's based on templates, not on reality.
And of course, filters are the key mechanism here. By constantly showing you a version of your face with, say, a slimmer jaw or perfectly smooth skin, they are literally retraining the facial recognition parts of your brain. Over time, your brain's internal template for what a normal face looks like actually shifts, and your real, unfiltered reflection can start to feel wrong or off. And this leads to an even deeper psychological effect, the fragmentation of the self, where we can actually stop seeing our bodies as a whole.
Psychoanalysts actually have a term for this. They call it corpse morcelé, which is French for the body in pieces. It describes how a tiny baby first experiences their own body, not as a whole, but as this collection of disconnected parts and sensations. The structure of the app can digitally bring back that fragmented feeling.
And here's how. So many trends and camera angles force us to just zoom in, to isolate one specific feature. One video trend is all about the lips. The next one is about the waist. The next is about skin texture. We stop seeing ourselves as a whole person, and instead we become this collection of parts. And each one of those parts is up for individual judgment.
And when you look at the research, the messaging around these body parts is overwhelmingly focused on appearance and conforming to an ideal. As you can see from this chart, content pushing restrictive diets and very specific body types is way more common than content focused on holistic, inclusive health.
You know, this quote from the source material just ties everything we've talked about together perfectly. A short-form video feed is a field dominated by fast figures without stable grounds. That applies to our attention, constantly shifting, and it applies to our sense of self, constantly being fragmented.
So we're left with this final question to think about. When our digital experience is built entirely on endless novelty and constant resets, what does that mean for our ability to finish a thought, to build a coherent story, or to even feel like a whole, complete person? It's definitely something worth thinking about the next time you find yourself scrolling.